On YouTube, thank you for Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining us. Everyone here knows me, but on YouTube, if you don't know me, my name is Michal Scharff. I'm a lifelong member of Congregation Children of Israel. I've been doing lay services off and on for about 10 years now. It's my honor and pleasure to be up here tonight. A little bit different service in your prayer book. I will call out the pages. It's a traditional Shabbat service. It's just not the one the rabbi usually does, but the order is going to be the same prayers, just not necessarily all the music he does. With that, and I don't want to risk anybody coming up with COVID, so I'm going to go ahead and tonight I'm going to do the candles, and then when it's time to open the ark, I'll do that. So with that, we're going to start on page 2 with the blessing over the Shabbat candles. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. And of course, before we get started, I want to go ahead and thank, and I'll do it again afterwards, but I want to thank our music director, Mark Dickens, faithful music director. We turn now to page 20 for the Lachadodi. And we're going to do verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And we get to the last verse, we're going to all rise and turn towards the entrance. L'cha dodi, l'krat kala, panei Shabbat n'Kabbalah. 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 Shamor v'zakor b'dibor echad, Hishmi'anu el cham yichad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shemo tiferet v'hit la 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 l'cha dodi, l'krat kala, panei Shabbat n'Kabbalah. L'cha dodi, l'krat kala, panei Shabbat n'Kabbalah. L'krat Shabbat l'chuven elcha, ki mekor habracha, merosh mekadem nesucha. So ma'aseh b'makshava dechi la 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 l'cha dodi, l'krat kala, panei Shabbat n'Kabbalah. L'cha dodi, l'krat kala, panei Shabbat n'Kabbalah. Hitorari, ki ba'orek uri shidavari. Kevad Adonai yalik la 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 do di la kala Panay Shabbat the Kabbalah la do di la kala Panay Shabbat the Kabbalah Boi v'shalom ateret bala Gam b'simcha u'v'tzola Tok emunei am segula Boi chala Lecha dodi lekrat kala Panay Shabbat nekabala Lecha dodi lekrat kala Panay Shabbat nekabala. We turn now to page 188 in the prayer books, page 188, as we sing the Kohen Hallelujah. Hallelujah, El Bit Kodsho, Hallelujah, Birki Ozo, Hallelujah, Bigurotav, Hallelujah, Kivrod Gulo, Hallelujah, Beteke Shofar, Hallelujah, Benevel Vekino. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, betofu machol, hallelujah, beminim ve'ogav, hallelujah, betzilz lelei shama. Hallelujah, betzilz letrua, kol hanshama tachal el yab, kol haneshama tachal el yab. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. We continue now by turning to page 145 in the prayer books, page 145, with the singing of the Hatzi Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah V'yal Midrach Irutei v'yamlich Malchutei B'chayechon v'yomechon U'chayedecho bein Yisrael Bagala Bagala Uvizman Kariv V'imaru Amen Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevarak Le'olam ulam me'amaya Yitbarak Yitbarak V'yishtabak V'yitpar V'yitroman V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yithalah Shemei Dekudesha Brichu Le'olam en kol birkata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran be'alma V'imaru Amen. As I go to the ark, we turn now to page 146, page 146. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav. Nope, wrong prayer. If I want to make a mistake, I might as well do it in front of God and everybody, right? Baruch hu et Adonai hamorak. Baruch Adonai hamorak le'olam va'ed. Lie, 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 lie. Falling apart here, folks. Sorry. All right, we continue on page 149 with the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Now we continue on page 150 with the V'ahavta, page 150. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol mildecha v'hayu hadevarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavaka hayom ha'levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha v'vetecha Uvelechnecha v'aderech, uv'shachnecha v'kumecha, u'kshartam la'od al yadecha, v'hayu l'totafot beinecha, u'kdatam el mezuzot beitecha, uv'isherecha, lema'an tizkaru, v'asitem kol mitzvotai, v'itim kiddushim le'elokechem, ani Adonai Elokechem, asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, Lehiyot lachem Elohim, ani Adonai Elokechem. Now, this evening's Parsha, for those of you who may not have seen it in your email or may not have followed it online, is going to be the crossing of the Red Sea. And with the crossing of the Red Sea, of course, the song of Miriam with the timbrels. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But in honor of that, if you'll turn to page 152, we're going to sing Mi Chamocha on page 152. Mi Chamocha Balim Adonai, Mi Chamocha Nedar Bakodesh, Norati Lo Osef Elem, Norati-Lot Osef-Elem, Ma'alechutecha Ra'uvanecha, Bokei Ayam, Lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Zeli, Zeli, Anu ve'amru, Adonai imlo, Le'olam va'ed. Excuse me just a minute. Pardon me. Please turn now to page 155 as we rise for Tefillah. Page 155. Adonai sifatai tiftak ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, Tocher Haste Avot V'imahot, Umevi Gulai Livnei V'nechem, L'ma'an Shemo B'yahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham Vezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Hakol Atah Ram Le'Oshia, Mahiv Baruch Omorit Hagashem, Mechakel Chayim Bechesed, Mechaye Hakol Berakamim Rabim. So make no fleem Verofe Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umechayim Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Mikamo Kabeal Givurot, Umido Melach, Melech Mamid, Umechaye, Umatzniak Yeshua, Beneman Atalech Ayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekaye HaKol. Please turn now to page 164, page 164, as we sing one of my favorite songs, A Prayer for Peace, the Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Beto benecha levarek et amcha Yisrael bechol ein ubechol shah bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. I give you a few minutes now for silent meditation, after which we'll continue on page 167 with the upbeat Oseh Shalom. We continue now on page 167 with Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom Bimromah, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromah, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael. I'm going to go a little out of order, the traditional order tonight. So we're now going to go to page 253, page 253 for the traditional Mishaberach. Now wait till you get there. And as I go to each section, if you'd please say out loud to yourself names of those you wished for a prayer for healing. We continue now on page 253 with Mishaberach. Mishaberach Avotenu, Mechor Chabracha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu, Mechor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Before I continue with tonight's Devar, just a little secular note. If you think about it, it took the Dogs almost as long to win another championship as it did for the Hebrews to cross the desert from Egypt to the Promised Land. And they kept saying, the coaches kept saying, let our dogs go, let our dogs go, let our dogs go. And finally, Monday night, after the plague of the Georgia defense was released on the Alabama Crimson Tide, glory, glory to old Georgia. All right, so tonight's Devar is taken directly from the weekly email I get from the Institute for Southern Jewish Life. It's a wonderful group. We used to be affiliated with it with our joint Sunday school. They have a rabbi on staff, and she writes a weekly Torah portion, and this one appealed to me. It's a little long, but not too bad. Shalom. This week's Parsha recounts one of the most famous events in the history of our people, the day the Israelites are finally allowed to leave Egypt and cross the Sea of Reeds, followed by exuberant singing. It is such an iconic moment that has been captured over the centuries in drawings, in paintings, in film, thank you, Cecil B., and other media. We are commanded to remember the tale each Passover, and we all know what happened. But do we really know what happened? Let's start by honing in on what happens directly after the Israelites have crossed the Sea of Reeds, after the memorable parting of the waters. Once every Israelite has made it to the other side, Moses extends his hands over the sea, staff in hand, as captured so eloquently by Charlton Heston, just as God instructs. Then God makes the sea close up again, drowning the oncoming Egyptian army in the process. The Israelites, now safely on the other side of the sea, are in awe. What happens next? Many of us will say that the Israelites break out in song, which does not follow text in the Torah. Many of us would add that it is Miriam and the women who lead the song and dance. That, however, is not strictly true. Before any mention of Miriam, we read, Moses and the Israelites sang a song to the Eternal from Exodus 15:1. What follows is several columns of lyrics which get their own special format in the Torah and in many printed editions of the Tanakh as well. It spans a full 19 verses, and we know it as Shirat Hayam, the Song of the Sea. The Israelites sing of God's strength and military might and celebrate God's triumph over the Egyptians. It's a warrior's victory ballad, a violent and gloating song of triumph, recounting in detail how God beat down, drowned, overwhelmed, and otherwise crushed and destroyed Israel's mortal enemies. Kind of gory. The softest parts of the song include lines about how God will bring the Israelites to Sinai, which leads into the verses that we now recite when we sing Mi Chamocha, who is like you, eternal God, among the gods that are worshipped. Never once is God thanked for our deliverance. It is the might that is celebrated, not the mercy. Then Miriam's come forward. According to the Torah, Miriam the prophet, Aaron's sister, picked up a hand drum, and all the women went out after her and danced with hand drums. And Miriam chanted for them, sing to the Eternal, for God has triumphed gloriously. Horse and driver God has hurled into the sea. Exodus 15:20-25. That's it. That's it. While Moses' song gets a special format and covers 19 verses, we only get one verse of Miriam's song. In terms of content, the song is very similar to what Moses sang. Yet when we think of the Israelites singing and dancing by the Sea of Reeds, we almost always think of Miriam and the women, and we almost always think they are singing in celebration and thanksgiving, praising God, but not necessarily reveling in the violence of the action. There can be many reasons both for the content and length of the songs. If we take a scholarly approach, we can hypothesize that maybe there were multiple traditions that were combined while the Torah was being canonized. Or maybe Miriam's song was longer, but the content was lost sometime during when it was originally transmitted and when it was written down. Or maybe the editors wanted the song to be led by Moses, not by Miriam. Imagine that. There's evidence elsewhere that Miriam could have had a larger story in the Torah that was either not included or cut out. The content of the two different songs also illuminates the differences between what was important to those first telling the biblical narrative and what is important to us today. In general, as modern Jews, we do not like it when our biblical narrative is violent, vengeful, or otherwise mean. We all know that content is there, but we do not like emphasizing it. Certainly, gloating over the destruction of others, even our enemies, unsettles us now. Is it any wonder that when we retell this story, We keep the praise and celebration of the songs, but change or avoid the violent verses. Today, such schadenfreude as in a fallen enemy's fate seems cruel, unless you're the Georgia Bulldogs. But every story from our text speaks to the human condition and our inherent foibles. Think of it this way. All of us still, on some level, root for our enemy's downfall. Imagine the last time someone on the opposing team lost whatever football game, political election, or other competition was at stake. How'd you react? How did others in your life? Was there glee? Was there gloating? I know in Athens at 2 o'clock in the morning there was much glee and ringing of the chapel bell. Miriam's song, More Grateful Than Gloating, demonstrates a more measured approach and reminds us to put more focus on giving thanks than on lording our victory over others. Our contemporary tendency to remember her song over Moses' song highlights the gap between text and tradition. What we find in the text often tells us more about the era from which it comes. What we evolve and incorporate into our own tradition speaks more to who we are and what we value. There are often multiple ways to respond to any given situation. There are just as many ways to embody the lessons of our text and traditions. It is therefore our responsibility to conscientiously consider and evaluate what we know and what we believe. May we always bear this in mind as we strive to sing a more grateful song. And again, this was from Rabbi Caroline Sim, the Director of Rabbinical Services for the Institute of Southern Jewish Life in Mississippi. Shabbat Shalom. We continue now by turning to page 288. Page 288. And I'll give you a moment for a silent reading of your choice from page 288 through page 292. Silent reading of your choice. Page 293 in the prayer book, our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. As we remember Alfred Convisar, James H. Herndon, Mr. Joseph Kunkel, Sharon Price, Mrs. Martha Anderson, Mr. Milton Kramer, Dr. Leon R. Nathan, Paul Brigman, Miss Sabat Rubenstein, Mr. Milton Fine, Herbert Gorlin, Mr. Abraham Pearlstein, Mr. Irwin Price, Mr. Max Simon, Michael Better, Gordon M. Punchin, Mrs. Minnie P. Shaw, Gertrude Convisar, Mrs. Naomi P. Estroff, Mr. Harry Handfinger, Mrs. Annie Platzblatt, Mrs. Sarah Dessauer, Mrs. Lucille Corman, Ms. Frances Meyer. We turn now to page 295. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. Please add to the list, either silently or out loud if you have anybody. and join now on page 294 in the Mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah. V'alma divrach hirute v'yamliach malchute. V'chayechon v'yomechon u'v'chayedecho Beit Yisrael. V'agala v'zman kari v'yimru amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei almaya. Yit barak v'yish tabak v'yit pa'ar v'yit roman v'yit naseh. V'yit hadar v'yit halev v'yit halal Shemei dekudesha brichu. Le'ilal min kol b'chata v'shirata. Tush v'chata v'nechemata. Da'amiran b'yomah v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shmaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromah. U'ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Be seated. Announcements. Before we continue, I know a few of you came in after I'd already started. Again, my name is Michal Scharff. I'm a lifelong member of Congregation Children of Israel. It's a pleasure for me to be up here tonight as the lay leader while Rabbi's in Israel. And we welcome y'all if you haven't met me yet, please come and introduce yourselves if you're comfortable. Now to announcements. The Saturday morning Shabbat service is at 9 a.m. tomorrow, followed by Torah study at 10 on Zoom. There will not be Havdalah services while Rabbi Shai is in Israel. Limited camp scholarship money is available for children of CCI members attending a Jewish summer camp from the Bart D. Wittenberg Religious School Fund. Contact the office by March 31st to apply. Thanks to Merrill and the work of others, but primarily to Merrill, CCI will celebrate 175 years with a special weekend in March. Save the dates for a Shabbat dinner on March 11th and a musical Havdalah on March 12th. Folks, I don't know if y'all realize, 175 years ain't nothing to sneeze at. This congregation, I've been a member all my life. I'm 62 years old. I've seen folks come. I've seen folks go. A lot of the folks on the yard site tonight were leaders of this congregation. It saddened me to read. It always saddens me to read the names of our loved ones, but in particular, I'm not going to mention everybody because I don't want to leave anybody out, but 175 years, just think about it. And again, thanks to Merrill for spearheading this effort. Yes, ma'am. Plus. Thank you, Merrill. The Augusta Jewish Federation is holding their first community event for 2022 on Saturday, January 29th at the Old Government House from 7 to 10 p.m. The family-friendly event will feature live entertainment with Nancy Gaddy. Light refreshments will be served, and it's free to everyone. Please RSVP to the Federation office by January 26th. And I know they moved, and I don't know if they still have the same phone number or not. They do? Thank you, Robin. So contact them at the same phone number, and please let them know if you're coming or not. The Jewish Family Film Festival will run from Sunday, January 16th through Thursday, February 17th. Excuse me. The films will be available online for a 3-day period, and a link and password will be provided prior to the showing dates. As always, thank you to Kathy Rafoth for the flowers. With that, we're going to conclude. Yes, Mark. Oh, thank you, Mark. I told you I was going to thank him again, and so I am. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Dad. It's been a long week, folks. We were very well protected in downtown Augusta this week. We had the winter convention of the Southeastern Division of the FBI meeting. Over 150 agents downtown. All right, we're going to continue and conclude our worship with the singing of Adon Olam. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nira Li'ed Nasa V'chetzachol Azai Melech Shemo Nichra B'yacharei Kichloch HaKol B'vado Yimlok Noram B'hu Hayam B'hu Hovem B'hu Yiyeh B'tifara B'yah Echad B'yein Sheni L'cham Shiloh L'chag Mira B'li Reshit B'li Taklit V'lo Haos V'cham Yisra V'hu Eli V'chai Goli V'tzur Kevli V'yetzara Adon Hazid Umanos Li Menat Kosi B'yom Echra B'yado Akid Ruchi B'yein Ishan B'ya'irat Adon Olam V'yigorti Adonai Li V'lo Ira. So, after 2 years, it wasn't perfect, but thank you all for being here tonight. I appreciate it. Thanks. We're going to do a, thank you. We're going to do a very brief Kiddush and Motzi. I will make individual slices if you wish to come up and get a slice. And again, I couldn't do this without my mentor, my musical mentor, Mark. Thanks, everyone. Let me go over here, and we will go Dogs. Thank you, Meryl. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. L'chaim. Pardon me, I forgot to put the water in. Like I said, it ain't perfect, but my hands are clean. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Thank you, everyone. Yes, sir. There's nothing in there. Yeah, thanks. No. Thanks, David. I should have cut it in half, sorry.